Ladies, have you been wanting to make a change, but you don't feel ready? Here's the truth. Readiness is a lie. The model of confidence for women is backward, and we need to flip it. I'm Cara Moeller-Poppitt, author of a new book, Big Freakin Change. After coaching thousands of women, I discovered action gives us confidence, not the other way around. If we wait to feel ready, we'll wait forever. So if you're ready to get unstuck and step into the life you've always dreamed about, visit bigfreakinchange.com right now and order your copy. Welcome to the Big Freakin Change Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of those who took bold action, embraced uncertainty, and transformed their lives without ever feeling ready. I'm your host, Cara Moeller-Poppitt, author of The Big Freakin Change and the creator of the Get Unstuck Cycle of Change model. Each week, we'll sit down with remarkable individuals who have taken bold steps in their lives, personally and professionally, to make meaningful change. Whether you're seeking a career shift, personal growth, or a boost in confidence, our goal is to inspire you to stop waiting and start taking action. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Freakin Change Podcast. I'm your host, Cara Moeller-Poppitt, and I'm so delighted to be here with a dear friend, a dear soul, sister, Jennifer Barroll. Nice to see you, sister.
Great to see you.
Thank you for coming today. I'd love to read your bio just so everyone knows how amazing you are so that they can share in your brilliance. So Jennifer has a rich history of leading diverse teams across her career with over 2 decades of leadership experience in marketing and communications, working with some of the largest brands in the world, coupled with more than a decade of corporate leadership consulting. Jennifer continues to be a catalyst for transformational growth within countless businesses spanning government, justice, and leading commercial enterprises. As a seasoned international keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, stand-up comedian, and media personality, Jennifer captivates audiences with her quick wit and dynamic stage presence. With her infectious energy, sense of humor, compelling storytelling, and actionable lessons, Jennifer empowers leaders to unleash the full potential of their teams while guiding individuals on a journey of personal growth and evolution applicable to all levels of business, from frontline workers to emerging talent and executives alike. Jennifer's forthcoming book, Make Work Not Suck, A Leader's Guide for Teams That Thrive, is slated to release in 2025, and it promises to be a beacon of insight for leaders seeking to foster environments where teams can flourish. Today, Jennifer remains in high demand as an international speaker, host, and entertainer, renowned for her expertise in leadership, communication, team dynamics, and change management. Sister, you got it all going on. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jennifer, I would love for you just to jump in and tell us about the biggest freaking change that you made, especially when you didn't feel ready. So talk to us about that.
You know, I feel like my whole career has been full of big freaking changes. If not my career, my whole life. I've been somebody who kind of moth to the flame, has not really backed away from change. I'm one of the weird ones that really loves it and leans right on into it and jumps off of cliffs. For this specific podcast, I will talk about a major career shift that was hard. It was very difficult. I had a job that I loved and it was very fulfilling. I had an amazing team. We were doing great work. There was not a day that I did not enjoy the things that we were doing and feel proud of the work we were doing. It was awesome. And I knew deep down inside that there was something else for me to do. And it was calling me, if you will. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that over the course of probably a couple of years, this little burning, this little ember kind of turned into a flame. And then it was met with an opportunity to take a step. And I know you write about this, but there's always a moment where you get invited to level up and make the move. And I knew what the right thing to do was, and it was really hard. So I made the move, and it was out of a job. I was the program director for a program. It was called In the Lead. And I had started it, pioneered it with a great friend of mine who was my boss also, but we worked together and we did a lot of stuff that just really shaped thousands of people's lives. And I was feeling like it was time for me to move on from that and to go and take what message we even had and take it to the world, take it onto bigger stages. So leaving that job was really difficult. It was a real challenge. And I got an opportunity and I took the opportunity to get out and to move forward. And there was a little bit of unknown, as there always is. And I navigated through that and the opportunities kept coming. And today, I have this brilliant, beautiful, amazing career where I am traveling the world and really speaking on stages, helping people specifically now in the corporate space to be the best version of themselves, honestly. And we spend so much of our life at work that I think that this work has really touched a lot of lives in a place that they have not expected to be touched. And I've been able to get a really powerful message of empowerment and hope and self-leadership into the corporate space. And I continue to do so. And I'm so glad I made that move. And it was really freaking hard.
I love that you mentioned that you followed your little whisper, your calling, your nudge, your intuition, your guide. We all have that voice inside of us. And sometimes we kind of make it dim or we don't want to listen to it until it gets really loud. Talk to us about the power of following your calling or your intuition and the rewards of that.
Yeah, I think there's rewards, and then there's also saving yourself from the unhappiness of being in a place that is not for you anymore. We all know about that passage that talks about there's a season for everything. There's a time for joy, and there's a time for war, and there's a time for peace. There's a season for everything. And when you outstay the season, you suffer. So you have to ask yourself, what is the thing that I am trying to avoid here? Is it avoiding the ambiguity of the future and the fear that is dominating my mind and the risk that it takes to move forward and seize this new thing that I'm feeling called to do? Or am I trying to just stay safe? Like, am I trying to just stay in this little thing, that the familiar, right? To stay in this pocket of the known, even though I know I don't want to be here anymore, even though I know it's not the right thing for me anymore. You have to really check in with yourself and do some work on what it is you want for your big life. And I would argue that most people, when you get down to it, are just too afraid to move. If they don't make that change when the season's over and up, and they don't make that shift and they stay, they are doing it because they're ignoring their possibility. They're ignoring their capacity to go and do it. They're afraid. And then they're stuck. And I say, in life, we're either one of two things at any given time. We're either a victim of the circumstances or we're a student of the circumstances. You can learn, you can grow, you can evolve. All those unknowns, all those things that you don't have yet a picture of, that's the exciting part of life, where you get to grow into it. You get to see how strong you actually are, how capable you are. You get to rise to the occasion. And that, to me, is one of the best parts of life. But if we don't do it, we stay stuck.
It's so beautiful how you paint that picture, and you are the anomaly of people that embrace change. Like you are. In my book, I talk about 5% of people being like you, that they love change. They just change to shake things up. And it's a superpower. And sometimes it can also be this idea that we have to chill out and calm down and make sure we're still in alignment and we're still feeling fulfilled, because change often will give us a promise of something. And if we're not taking the change with intention or alignment, sometimes we can be disappointed and we just jump to different places. But I know that you've jumped with alignment and with your calling, and you're just, you give people so much hope, so much inspiration. You're super funny. I always laugh when I'm with you. Your accents, your presence is definitely there. Jennifer, I want to know about when you talk to corporate clients and they're struggling to make change. Maybe it's organizational change. What are some tips that you give them to bring their team on board to make change possible? What would be some practical tips you could offer?
There are two foundational things that I talk about almost everywhere that I go. And I talk about them almost everywhere I go because they're relevant to everybody, corporate or not. But these are the two things. I call them your two secret superpowers, and they're your core strengths things that you're naturally capable and good at, and your core values. Now, values and strengths, people talk about them all the time. And it's not like this is something new, but it's so simple and so achievable, so digestible, right? It's easy to understand. Aligning with, and you spoke just about alignment. I love it. You have to be in alignment, and you can feel when you're in it and you can feel when you're out of it. When you're out of it, I ask people to check in. Are you operating within, are you using your core strengths, whether that be company-wide or individuals? And to me, it's macro and micro. If you're not seeing it, if the business isn't thriving and you're not succeeding in the way that you should be succeeding, or you wanted to succeed, take a look at the core strengths of your organization. Are you doing those things? Are you doing too many things? So you're now being too busy. You're trying to offer too much stuff. And so you're doing 10% of 100 things, when really maybe you should be doing 100% of 2 things, right? So align with your strengths. And then your values. I mean, this is so huge. And to me, yes, it's talked about. We have the values written on our website and right on our onboarding plans, but do we really live them out? Are we really aligned with our values? Most people are not. Most businesses are not. They had a third-party consultant come in and work with them on their mission, vision, and values. They checked the box, right? They put it in all the things that it needed to be put on, but they don't consult it like a compass. You know, when you're out in the woods walking around and you got to figure out, you got to navigate the unknown. You look at your compass. I mean, nowadays you look at your GPS, but you need guidance, and you need to look at that tool in order to take the right steps and make the right moves to stay in alignment with the destination that you want to be traveling in. The same is true with our values. You've got to be consulting them. Like, I literally have them written on a sticky note on the side of my computer, and I look at those values all the time. I consult them. They're my GPS. And when I'm out of alignment, when things do not feel right, whether that's in relationships, whether that's at work, decisions I'm making about the evolution of my company, oh, wait a second, this is how I behave. I call it the best version of yourself. When you act in alignment with your values, you and your strengths, you are the best version of yourself. And there's 5 things. When somebody's the best version of their self, they're whole, they're empowered, they're productive, they're present, and they're aligned. Those are the 5 things that everybody, if you're out of sorts in any one of those areas, check in. Am I living in alignment with do I know what my values are? Do I consult them when it's time to have a conversation, time to stand up for myself, time to make a big freaking change, right?
Yes.
It's your values.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important in companies and in life, right? As an entrepreneur, usually our business values are an extension of ourselves. And we think that they mean the same thing to everybody, and they don't. Like, we have to really break down values and decide, how do we define acting in this value, with this value, for this value? And then we get to this beautiful spot of clarity where everyone is in harmony, right? Everyone is in alignment, everyone understands, and we're working towards a beautiful mission that drives our business forward. So thank you for sharing that. I want to know about your book and what made you decide to write it, and who you're writing it for.
Thank you for asking about that. As you know, it's a real labor of love and a lot of freaking work to create it, to birth it, to see it out in the real world. And I'm so proud of you for you and your book and what you've been doing and what you will continue to do. For me, the book is an extension of the message that I'm traveling the world on stages talking about. And the reason I wrote this book is because this is one of the things that I am asked to talk about the most. I originally had it titled Happy at Work, and that is one of the keynotes that I offer. And I just found that when people request me, I have a few keynotes that are just, yeah, sure, I can talk about that topic. I typically will curate every keynote that I'm delivering for the individual audience one at a time, but there's a theme to it. And the theme was how to have a workplace that doesn't suck to go to, really. And the more I talked about it, Happy at Work was this nice kind of like very buttoned up corporate-y way of saying that. And my personality with a little bit of stand-up comedy and performer in there, it's like, let's just talk about the thing. Let's just make work not suck, which is really about being happier at work.
Mhm.
And I'm writing it not for necessarily the employee. The employees can read it and they'll get a lot out of it. It can be universally applied, but I'm really writing this for leaders because in the corporate space, the leaders hold the power of the environment and the vibe and the culture. And so the subtitle is A Leader's Guide for Teams That Thrive. This is about how to create an environment where your people not only are coming to work with a smile on their face, like it's not sucking to be there, but they're thriving, they're flourishing, they're bringing their A game, they're using their strengths, they're in alignment with their values, right? It's a positive, progressive environment where people are whole and they're productive and they're empowered, right? All of those things. It's a good place for them to go and grow. And I've experienced in my career, I'm sure you have too, places where I worked and I got beat down. And it sucked. Work sucked. And it was traumatic. Like I had to heal from some of the people that led me in the jobs that I've had. And then I've worked in places where they saw my strengths and they celebrated them and they gave me a role that was in alignment with my own growth in those areas. And I thrived and I worked hard and I loved it. And I pushed it. I did as the best I could do in those environments. And when I left there, I left better than when I came, smarter, wiser, more skilled. And I think of the contrast between those two jobs. And it's like, it could have been possible to have had that positive experience every time, but it was leadership that failed. So this book is for leaders who really want an environment where, you know, how doctors have the Hippocratic Oath, at the very least, cause no harm, right? We don't want you to be worse than when you came in here to get healed. And I think we need to have a leadership oath that says, at the very least, let's make work not suck.
I love that. I love that. That's so brilliant and so simple and easy to understand and sometimes hard to do, right? Like no leader wants their employees to feel that they don't like their work and it sucks. Even the word change can really stress people out. And from an organizational point of view, it amplifies that, right? People don't want to make change. Change is a negative connotation. I like to use the word shifts because it doesn't trigger us. But how do we actually start the conversation in an organization about change? Like, is it about motivating the people to understand why change is necessary? What's going to happen from it? Is it to call out the hard parts? Like, how do we open the conversation when businesses, leaders want to make change for the good?
I think the thing that scares people the most is a lack of trust. And when there's no transparency, there's no trust. And when there's no trust, there's fear. And when there's fear, you can't move forward, right? Well, you can't do what you need to do. And so to me, it really starts from a leadership perspective when you're talking about organizational change. And I have a lot of these conversations and workshops. We talk a lot with leaders about organizational shifts. And what I always say is, you know, when you look at your corporate values and you look at what matters the most to you in your organization, obviously the people are on that list in some way, shape, or form. And you got to really consult that bullet point on the list, right? You got to really look at that people part and go, okay, well, what do they need?
Yes.
And it might be, to tear a page out of Brene Brown's leadership training, it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like you got to be real. And if it's a change or a shift where you're kind of maybe downsizing, or again, you've taken a look at all the things you're like, we're offering 50 products here that we shouldn't be offering. So that may mean that the company focus leaves and you've got to let people go. That might mean that. And nobody wants to do that. And so instead of really having an honest conversation about it, they skirt the truth and they just make decisions from way up in the tower. And that kind of behavior sewers a culture because it destroys trust.
Yes.
And makes people feel unsafe because you're threatening people's families. Like you got to understand that paycheck is putting Joey through hockey and putting food on the table and making sure that you have heat in the winter. And when you start to mess with people's livelihood, you can really sewer your culture and destroy, again, that opportunity for people to to even understand difficult decisions. So to me, I would say you've first got to start with a level of transparency that is in alignment with your values. And you really have to ask yourself, from an empathetic perspective, to say, these are just humans humaning. These are just folk that they want to show up and do a good job and get their paycheck and be able to provide for their families and for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. And so in your communication, you need to empathize with that. Yeah. Build that trust.
Absolutely. I agree fully. And I think part of our job leading companies and starting businesses and even working with clients is to always ensure psychological safety. And it's this conversation that I keep having in the coaching that I do is, how do we instill psychological safety? And it's okay for someone like me and you to go into a circle and be asked to tell us, tell something very vulnerable. But for somebody else, that is like way too much. It's traumatic. It can cause an anxiety attack. And so what I've learned is, when you're trying to connect to people, it's about it being intentional and always driving psychological safety at the forefront. So how do you position a question that everybody can answer at least part of it? You can say you can share one or all three of your answers, but one of them does not make the person feel vulnerable because some people are, they're not ready for it. And I think as leaders, that is our job to really understand our team members. How do they feel appreciated? What makes them tick? What are their love languages? What makes them experience fear? We can have a conversation meaning one thing and someone can blow it up. And I think it all comes down to psychological safety. In your perspective, how do we do a better job at that?
I love that conversation, and you're going to laugh. This is like not staged at all in any way, but like literally right on my shelf is Amy Edmonston's book, The Fearless Organization, Creating Psychological Safety in the Workplace for Innovation and Growth. She is the one. She didn't just write the book. She has 3 books. She wrote 3 books about this. She's a Harvard professor, and she's the one who coined psychological safety back in, I think it was 2016. And then Google caught on to this idea of psychological safety, and they created a project where they invested millions upon millions of dollars all around the world, and they wanted to find out what makes a team thrive. And after like 4 years and thousands and millions of dollars, they couldn't put their finger on it, right? Until some of the teams started emerging with this weird thing, the top little key thing that every single person on the team had a voice. And when I'm talking about psychological safety, I really encourage leaders to take a step back, because we all have it on every team. You can think of any team you've ever managed, and you've got the loud one, you've got the more technical one, you've got the very quiet one that they won't say boo anywhere. Like you really do have a mix of people that talk and don't talk. And if you go to the heart of it, you're like, okay, how am I going to get them to talk? Is to your point that you just made, you need to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And most leaders don't.
Right.
They just talk, don't they? And then they promote the people that talk the most. The quiet ones don't get promoted as fast, typically, statistically. So really, from a leadership perspective, and to me, this is so simple. When you talk about psychological safety, you can get real heady about it, but this is so simple. Like, just make sure everybody's speaking up. And if they're not speaking up, it's your job as the leader to ask the right questions and open-ended in ways that celebrate, again, their strengths. Like, Cara, this is something that I know you're involved in. You've been working on this so hard. I really appreciate your expertise here. And if we don't have your weigh in on this project, we are going to miss something. Can you help us? I really need you here. I really need your support here. All of a sudden now you feel like you're valued, you matter, you're important, you've got a voice. So even if you're nervous and you're introverted, you're going to speak up because you've just been given a fist bump from your boss to say, we need you here.
And I think there's such a gap in the workplace. And even when we talk about diversity inclusion, right? We're trying to get people to speak up and do all these brilliant things so we have more collaborative and diverse teams. And yet there's still a huge gap. And I believe the gap is in our confidence. So women are still less likely to be the CEOs, the people on top. And part of the problem is that we're less likely to put up our hand. We want to feel perfect before we apply. And yes, we have to do some work, and our counterparts also have to do some work to include and make us feel welcome to that conversation and to validate, because a lot of people need validation before they take action. And so in the example that you just gave us about, calling someone forward and sharing their brilliance with people, is it develops their confidence. It's like, oh, I do have something to say. I just haven't given that chance, or I haven't been given that attention. There's such a huge gap in confidence. And without confidence, we're going to stay stuck. And with confidence, we're going to take more chances. Talk to me about what you notice in leadership and confidence.
This is a tricky thing because I think you can fake it till you make it. And that reads as disingenuous, right? So there is a definite line there. And I'm the kind of person that I really appreciate when somebody's just being authentic, even in their awkwardness, right? Like I don't like the line of trying to make somebody act in a way that is not like. Acting confident can be a cartoon version of confidence, right? Puffed up and loud and big. But confidence also, in my definition of it anyway, is more about being okay with yourself, being confident in who you are and not needing to shift so that you are some version of what you think people want you to be. And quiet leaders are very effective. And by quiet, I mean not loud and gregarious and charismatic. And, there are all different types. There's an argument to be said where, as a leader, there's a moment where sometimes you do have to step up and step out and have the courage to do something that doesn't come as naturally to you. I do this survey where I have it's kind of like 5 different leadership types. And we all slide into one of those a bit more naturally. But the real leadership lesson is that we have to be able to be all 5 types.
Yeah.
So we got to find the courage to speak up when it's necessary. But back to your question about confidence, it really is about, to me, knowing yourself. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but when you are in alignment with your values and you know your strengths, people don't faze you, right? You're confident. That's to me where you start, is you've got to know what you have, what you're good at, what you're not good at even, right? Hire around your weaknesses and make sure you've got those bases covered, and be in alignment with your values. Because when you're in alignment with your values, you will say the thing that needs to be said when it needs to be said, because you have that value. Something that I talk about is, and I say it in this language, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I say it's the hill you die on. Your values are the hill you die on. This is like, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to put up my hand. I'm going to challenge the status quo. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to
do the thing. I'm going to bust the move.
Yeah. But that's what your values do for you. And that's what gives you confidence.
Yes. I feel like it's being grounded in who you are, that you stop looking for external validation or information to make decisions. It's your compass. You're tapping into your values. You have that alignment, and then you go forward. And do you have all the answers? No. Is everything perfect? No. But you move forward anyways. I love this. Tell me how you define courage.
Courage is feeling that fear and doing it anyway.
Yes.
It's finding something bigger to believe in inside of you and trusting that and acting on that.
Yes. And what's your best piece of advice for people to flex their courage muscle? Like, how do we tap into courage?
Such a great question. I believe that every day we wake up and we are given a clean slate of the day, and we can choose again to be the student or the victim of the day. And those can be big lessons or small lessons. But if you go through life with a mindset around learning and growth with purpose, right? I want to be the best version of myself so that I can be whatever, a better mom. I can be a better wife. I can be a better friend. I want to be the best version of myself here in life. To me, it takes courage. It takes the idea of growth. It takes courage to grow. It takes the idea of being willing to look at something through a different lens, briefly being able to look at yourself through a different lens, right? People stay stuck because they don't see themselves properly. They don't see themselves as strong enough. They don't see themselves as worthy enough. They don't see themselves as capable enough. That's too hard. Who am I to write a book? Who am I to say I want to be a singer? Who am I to whatever, get on a stage and tell jokes? Who am I to do that?
Yeah.
Who am I to believe in myself? But the world is full of people who did take the risk and they jumped and they took the courage and they believed in themselves. And it's you use the word muscle, and I think that's exactly what it is. How do you build any muscle? How do you be a better anything? Bike rider? How do you be a better? I just went skiing. I just got back from Whitefish and was skiing through the trees, and it was epic and amazing. And I was so stoked that I had the physical and capacity to do that because I had the best day ever. But I didn't just start there. It was so many courageous moments of taking the risk and falling down and failing and getting back up and doing it again that got me to that fun day.
It's so true that we're just building, like I talk about flexing our courage muscle and making small shifts inside of our comfort zone first. So we build some momentum and we build this trust with ourselves, because often we don't trust ourselves that we're going to figure it out, even if we don't have all the information. So I love your work. I want to know where we can find you. Where can people check you out, follow you, and then get your book once it's released?
Yes. So jennyb.ca is the current website. And all of my book stuff is going to be there. I'm also Jennifer_Barroll on Instagram. So there will be announcements there. I'm Jennifer Barroll on LinkedIn as well. All of the announcements for the book are going to be there. We're looking at fall 2025, so September launch. And we will be going to a couple of different cities. So if you're around in Canada and the US, we are going to try to get out there. But that's me. And I'm going to there will be a lot of hype coming before the book comes out, but it'll also come with a podcast. So I'll have you back on my podcast.
Great. Well, I still remember, sister, the first time we had heart to heart. It was late in my studio. I was just opening, under construction. I reached out because someone put us in touch for you to do a press release for me. You volunteered your time, and we just became Insta friends because we had like this soul connection. The conversation was like 8 hours. We talked about everything, right? And I know you're going to do some incredible work in this world, as you already have, and you're just going to continue to amplify your message and help people make change and step into a fuller version of themselves. And most importantly, make work not suck. So thank you so much for being here. Everyone, remember that change is possible for you. Start small, believe in yourself, flex your courage muscle, and move forward. You got this. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and would be so grateful if you could share it with someone else that could benefit from it. Let's remember to change our relationship to change itself and take aligned action. If we want to make meaningful changes in our lives, we need to embrace stepping into the next version of ourselves in the process. Remember, stop waiting to feel ready and start taking action today.